Are you ready to do you have gas, Clayton?
I have gas pains.
Okay.
I have pains in my gas.
Time to talk about gas. Boys, do you have gas?
Do you guys have gas?
Oh my gosh, do I have some words to say on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait. Okay.
Words. Do you have a...
I'm all electric here.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
All right. Well, good.
Yeah.
Well, hold your powder. Hold your powder. So let's get into some of the data on
it makes
this.
you feel.
Go ahead.
What makes
I
us
was gonna say, if
feel
it makes you feel better, I did turn on. I was using my oven, and I had some groceries sitting up on the top of the stove, and I turned on the oven to preheat it while I was putting groceries away, and it melted a plastic bag all over one of the burners. So it's the same. It's the same presumed toxicity of a gas stove. With my
How'd you get that off?
Oh, that's a pain. How'd you scrape that off?
I didn't. I'm just going to replace it, but I haven't got around to it yet.
Oh, that's not good. I'm sorry to hear that.
I just don't use that burner. That's the bad burner.
Okay.
That's the plastic burner.
All right. Well, the battle over gas stoves is coming to a boil.
Oh.
Get it?
I get it.
This issue has been brewing, but we've put it on the back burner.
Do you have a sad
here at Redacted?
Do you have a sad trombone sound effect?
So this pot is stewing, and we're gonna talk about it. Okay. That's all. That's all I got for now.
No more bad puns.
Okay. So here's how the controversy started. If you don't know it already, it is a big American controversy at this moment, but it does seem to be spreading into other Western nations. So last week, the head of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission told Bloomberg that a ban on gas stoves is being considered in order to, quote, address the pollution, which can cause health and respiratory problems. This caused a freak out online for people who say they will never, ever, ever give up their gas stoves. I, too, love cooking on gas stoves, but I'm willing to be objective about this because when we moved to Europe, we realized that a lot of people don't use gas because it's so expensive. And so most people here in Portugal just use electric stoves, and that's you can have a gas line run in, but it's not common. So we do have an electric stove now. An induction stove. I have learned to love it. But let's look at the studies about gas stoves. Well, first we'll look at the studies, and then we'll talk about your preferences, because those are important too.
Okay.
So gas stoves has been linked to all manner of indoor toxins because you are, of course, burning fuel inside of your house. Here's what Bloomberg has to say. Bloomberg tells us that the EPA and the World Health Organization have said that they are unsafe and they are linked to respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular problems, cancer, and other health conditions, according to reports by groups such as the Institute for Policy Integrity and the American Chemical Society. Consumer Reports in October urged customers planning to buy a new range to consider going electric after tests conducted by the group found high levels of nitrogen oxide gases from gas stoves. And in fact, new peer-reviewed research published just last month in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that more than 12% of current childhood asthma cases in the U.S. can be attributed to gas stove use. Now, even climate researcher Bjorn Lundberg, who normally calls bullshit on mainstream media's environmental cause of the day, does in fact agree that indoor cooking is a health hazard, and he is the one, again, who normally debunks environmental claims that the media latches onto. Here's what he says in his book, False Alarm. He says, one of the deadliest environmental problems today is indoor air pollution, produced almost entirely because the world's poorest 2.8 billion people are forced to cook and heat their houses by burning dirty fuels like wood, dung, and cardboard. He does not mention gas, but he does say that cooking with fire from these things is bad.
Yeah, but these are totally different. Wood, dung. First of all, I'm thinking about moving our house to a dung stove.
Actually,
just because if I want to piss off my kids,
gather it?
No, my kids. I'm going to make them those lazy sons of. They're going to go out and they're going to go out and get some dung. Go out to the chicken coop and grab dung, or go out to the dog pen or the cow.
Who's on dung duty?
we wouldn't be too
Yes.
far from that, because remember the interview I did with the guy who wrote Unquenchable? He taught about compost toilets.
Yeah.
So
let's do it.
We could do something kind of like that.
This is the year when we piss off our kids.
Yeah.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's a good idea. The dung duty, like put them on dung
Yeah.
duty.
Yeah.
That's like
Let's do it.
Yes, they pissed me off today, so you're on to something.
They're going to wake up tomorrow. They're going to rue the day. Oh,
They're on your shit list.
Yeah, they're on my
They
shit list.
literally are on my shit list.
What, Miles?
Okay, let's get back to the book. He says regarding breathing this foul pollution, again, from cooking indoors from wood, dung, and cardboard, not gas, is equivalent to smoking 2 packs of cigarettes each day, and women and children are the worst affected. When people emerge from poverty, they turn to cleaner gas or electricity as fuel sources. Since 1990, the risk from indoor air pollution has dropped by 58%, mostly because of the increased GDP per person in the developing world.
So they turn to cleaner gas or electricity.
As people get wealthier, they choose this on their own.
And that's what Ralph Schulhammer just said on our show.
That's what the data shows,
Yes.
too. So his point here is
and I
that you don't. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, we say they choose it on their own, but if you look at people that are building these big houses, these $5,000 to $50,000 stoves, have you ever seen a mansion with an electric stove in it? Like, chefs don't use electric, right? So it's like they...
In Europe, they mostly have, they have electric stoves.
they really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
The
I've never
nicest
seen it in
houses in Europe will mostly have electric stoves because... Go ahead.
So I was going to say, a lot of people in our chat are saying they run restaurants here, and there's no way gas for restaurants, like, that you can't take away, like, someone just said we can't run our restaurant on electric. We would maybe like to, but we can't.
Cow dung? Can you run it on cow dung?
No, but a lot of chefs here, a lot of restaurant owners in our chat saying they have to run it on gas.
And you think of those
'cause they gotta
Chinese
control the flame.
woks that have, I don't know the technical term of them, but it's like, they call it the airplane jet, because it's literally just like, that's what a wok needs. A real wok needs one of those gas, what have you.
Like a F-16.
Like a jet burner.
Yeah.
And most of those really expensive stoves that we're talking about, when people become wealthier and they choose a stove based on their habits and their finances and can I afford the gas, have upgraded ranges that are pulling a lot of those toxins out of the air as well. So again, his point here is that market conditions can take care of that. And the bigger concern is not whether or not wealthy people have gas stoves. It's whether or not poor people have dung stoves.
Right.
This is the issue, right? Wood and dung and cardboard stoves. So can we upgrade those people? No, we've got to turn to like wealthy nations,
No. So here's what we do. And again, this is what we do with the poor countries. We're asking them to skip industrialization, right? So they're cooking with dung. And then as we evolved, right, in first world countries, they evolved and started moving from wood stoves, moving to cleaner gas, moving to electricity, upgrading their burning mechanisms inside the homes, ventilation systems, etc. But in Africa and sub-Saharan Africa and other parts of the world that don't have access to this, what we're asking them to do is skip those steps and go right to solar panels. Go right to solar panels and to heat your infrastructure, and that's a total farce.
right.
And
Now-
we'll subsidize you. We'll give you a little bit of money back at the end of the year for your purchase.
Yeah. This made me think of the Danish, because Denmark burns more candles per head than anywhere else in Europe. So I just want to present you with this little anecdote. Each Dane burns around 13 pounds of candle wax per year. To put that in contrast, each Dane consumes only 6.5 pounds of bacon. So they're using twice as many candles as bacon. It's just their thing. Gets dark there by 3 p.m. at some times of the year. Candles are the thing they collectively value for their, I'm going to say this word wrong, I think it's hygge. This comes from a book called The Little Book of Hygge. It's a Danish word that really doesn't have an English equivalent. It's like things that make you feel warm and cozy and loved and safe.
I love
basically.
this idea.
It's like warm socks or an intimate dinner with friends or Netflix and chill. It's like all of those things are hygge. Now, the Danish, though, know that candles create air pollution. From this book, it says, hygge, or hygge light, as the Danes may be, There's one serious drawback to being crazy about candles is soot. Studies show that lighting just one candle fills the air with more microparticles than traffic in a busy street. A study undertaken by the Danish Building Research Institute showed that candles shed more particles indoor than either cigarettes or cooking. Despite Denmark being a highly regulated country, we have yet to see a warning label on candles because nobody messes with the hygge fanatics. There is now a growing awareness among Danes of the importance of airing out a room after burning candles. Nevertheless, despite the health implications, Danes continue to consume candles in obscene quantities. So the Danish have decided that this is a cultural value and they take collective responsibility for it. We know it. We love it. Don't try to regulate it. So should we follow in the West this model and say, okay, we know that there's a risk with gas stoves. There is science behind it, but certain people want to accept that risk and maybe upgrade their ventilation, and we don't need regulation. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that
is this hygge the way we should go?
Yes, exactly. Do it yourself. Like we have someone in the chat, Drablos says, we have a wood-burning stove. Drablos, I think that's how you pronounce your screen name, Drablos. We have a wood-burning stove. We have no problem with the indoor air. I don't believe this research. First of all, I would just say maybe there's a way, I don't know how you could test indoor air quality. Like I would certainly, there's very easy, like simple electronic devices you can get to measure indoor air quality.
Well, we burn wood too, but behind a glass stove.
We use what's called in Portugal a recuperador. No.
Yeah.
And it blocks the particles from coming out, but you get all the heat from it. And it actually has it's fantastic. And it gets so warm and nice and you still
I'm talking about people who cook, in small, poorly ventilated places with wood and cardboard and dung, not necessarily a wood-burning stove that's designed to pull some of the. Again, this is for you to do research on, the air quality in your house and the ventilation system in your house. Is it, or it's for the government? Like these are two different platforms that I'm presenting you here.
Right, and let's look also at the motivation, because at the end of the day, all of the people in the World Economic Forum, and again, we just have this revelation over the past 48 hours or so that a partner with the World Economic Forum is behind this new push and this new research, and this push to remove these gas stoves, right? And so you have the World Health Organization, which we also know is tied to them, right? So you have the World Economic Forum and the World Health Organization. I mean, how many more examples of being in cahoots do you need for driving this climate agenda to get us to get away from natural gas and onto solar and wind energy?
Now, leave it to libs. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, it reminds me of there was a time when the Waldorf Astoria lobbied Congress because they wanted to make mandatory these huge sprinkler systems that would be required for hotels and things like that. So that passed and instantly put out of business mom and pop hotels that could not afford to retrofit their sprinkler systems to abide by those laws. So it's almost like they're coming up with something. They're like, what could we do to make people more dependent on us? And it's like if they control the power grid, because they're pushing electric cars, they're pushing electric stoves. Like, why is everything being pushed electric now when there's such a demand for gas? They're going to take away our gas fireplaces, our gas heaters, our water heaters and stuff too. That's all going to have to be electric. So it's like part of the conversation is against electric, or against gas, but part of it is still for gas. So it's like, that just kind of tells you there has to be some agenda to this other than what they're saying. Right.
And electric energy requires a lot of water, which is also a resource that we should be measuring. And in large part in the United States, there isn't a collective, let's all get together. I mean, wells are not even regulated. You can just drill wherever you want in the United States. And so no one's thinking about, are we going to have enough water to run this electricity? That research is just not done. Again, we did an interview last year with an author of a book called Unquenchable, which I really recommend that you read, even though it's over 10 years old. I can't think of his name at this point. But, there's a lot that goes into delivering electricity for everybody's car, for everybody's stoves, for everybody's heat. So if we all just decided to go off gas at this point, the grid wouldn't be able to handle it.
Right.
It just simply wouldn't. Now, most of the liberal politicians who were, getting involved in conversations about this on Twitter and trying to say, hey, but your gas stove's going to kill you, so shut up and get in line, were in fact people who had posted photos of themselves
during the
cooking
holidays
with gas over the holidays. Here you have the First Lady Jill Biden. You have Kamala Harris. You have AOC, and you have Elizabeth Warren, all showing off their beautiful gas ranges. So
Can I defend AOC really quick, because she did a Instagram live and said that she rents, so it's not her fault. So
Oh, yes, she did
just wanted
say
to
that.
Throw that out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a renter. So.
But all the rest of them, Kamala Harris, they're all cooking with gas. They're all making their holiday meals, cooking with gas stoves. But again, what's good for you? What is it? What did Ralph say?
Gas for me, but not for thee.
Yeah, gas for me, but not for thee.
And now we come to the sort of hidden agenda part here, because one eagle-eyed Twitter user points out that some of this research that these politicians are using about gas stoves being bad for you was done by a company called Rocky Mountain Institute, and they happen to be a partner of the World Economic Forum. Take a look. Here is their page on the World Economic Forum. And then the next slide over shows you their attribution of this study, showing that gas stoves are harmful for child asthma. So, the World Economic Forum does in fact push for total elimination of carbon emissions at any cost, even the lives of the poorest among us. So there is something inherently to mistrust about this research about breathing in fumes from indoor fires, and how that spans decades. So you can put a pin in that. I don't think it's nothing. I think it's worth looking into. Absolutely. If you have a gas stove, you should give it some thought in regard to the health of your family. But again, I present you the Dutch hygge and the idea of taking personal responsibility instead of handing over power to global elites.
Yeah, like for instance, yeah, exactly. Check your own indoor air quality. If you have like a daughter that like suffers from asthma and you find out like, okay, let's test this. Maybe it's affecting our daughter, right? Because you don't have proper ventilation or something. Like that's on you to make a decision about. We're going to move to an electric stove, right? Because that's going to be better for our daughter.
We're going to get a cat, but we can't because our daughter's allergic, so you just don't get a cat. Like,
yes, exactly. Right. So like my sister growing up was allergic to Christmas trees. Like there was something in the fur, whatever it was.
I'm allergic to Christmas.
She's allergic to Yule.
She was allergic to the Yule log. And so we ended up having to get like an artificial tree because she would just like sneeze like crazy. And so we didn't have, so you just make these changes in your family. But do we need the World Economic Forum telling us how to live our lives with this?
Or banning Christmas trees?
Or banning Christmas trees altogether? Yeah, they're going to tell us that that's next. So
I am going to go with this. I'm allergic to Christmas bit next year.
Okay.
Because I think that I am.
You are. You're just, you're a Grinch.
I am. Yeah. I'm happy to see it in my rearview mirror.
Well, that's going to do it.
Yeah. Sorry. No, I didn't want to interrupt Natalie because she was on a roll, but I wanted to come back to the hygge.
Yeah.
You said like it's cozy, like warm socks or like a fireplace, and then Netflix and chill.
I know.
And that just, I absolutely, I was like, okay, yeah, we're getting real cozy in that.
That's what the young kids say, right? Netflix and chill.
I love this idea of hygge. When we learned, we were considering, before we decided to move to Portugal, we were thinking about like, well, where in the world would we want to live for our kids and give a better life? And like, of course, Denmark has the highest happiness markers and everything. We started seriously like looking at it, right? I even called real estate people I was talking to, and just looking into it, and then realized, okay, it gets dark at like 3 o'clock, and but then we understood this idea of hygge, and I'm like, I love that idea that you can't have. Is it more than 6 people? More than 6 people
yes.
over for a dinner party then violates the hygge rules, like in Danish. Like no, 6 is like where you can have good conversation. Mm-hmm. More than that though, and then it's not. It violates hygge rules.
Yeah.
And not having a lot of lights, but having like candlelight and a fireplace, and I'm like. I love that coziness.
Yeah, it's a whole vibe. I read a whole book about it. That you're feel free to put in the chat what makes you feel hygge. Like it has to be relaxing. It has to be cozy and soft and warm. It could be your dog.
Could be a cat.
It could be a cat.
I used to sit and Put candles around the bathtub, sit in the bathtub with just candles and listen to Enya. That was my hygge.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell anybody, though. I don't want that getting out.
Hippie.
All right. I don't think they mentioned the bath in the book, but I suppose.
Yeah, like sitting by a fire reading a good book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hygge. Anyway, I saw a commercial. Last year they had a commercial out for it, and it was like, and it put the word up on the screen, and it had like the example of it. And I don't know if it was like
it was
IKEA.
an Amazon commercial. It was like, order me these things. I know, so commercialized, right? But it's a really great concept that I learned a lot from it.
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.